What's up, everybody? My name is Garden Sound. Welcome to Garden Sound 365. This is the show where we write music every day for a year. Pleasure having everybody back today from the DeFranco Nation. DeFranco Nation, as a stand-in for Phil, I feel like it is my duty to say I love your faces. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for showing up. If you didn't, go ahead and clack that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Did I pull that off effectively? I tried. Anyway, welcome back to my show, which is my show where I talk about music normally. This week we're filling in for Philip DeFranco since he took an unexpected leave of absence on Monday, and we gotta fill that void in our week with news. And today, really, I'm just gonna talk about one particular news story. This is how men clear their throats. Yeah, ladies, when you're not around, that's how we clear our throats, with the Excuse me while I clear my throat. Sorry, Patrick Stewart just jumped into my voice box. Mr. Becca won't speed. That's terrible. Yeah, today I'm just going to talk about one news story in particular because it's affected me in a way that most news stories don't. Kind of got set into my being. This dude is definitely the douchebag of the day. So we got one story today. Sorry, it's a downer, and it's the douchebag of the day. But I'm going to be bringing you some very positive news from the booth, some truth from the booth right after this. Before we get into that, though, today's episode is brought to you by VST Buzz. VST Buzz brings you all sorts of VSTs, virtual instruments for your DAW. This is a music channel, so we've got plenty of people here who are interested in things like this. This week I'm offering you 65% off on Juggernaut by Impact Soundworks. Juggernaut is a monstrous instrument for any modern composer on the cutting edge, built from extremely original, synthesized sounds from a huge array of sound sources, presented in the free Contact player. So you don't even have to have Contact. This comes with a free version of Contact, inspired by modern film and game scores, trailers, and popular EDM genres. Its drums, FX, basses will constantly evoke those cutting-edge sounds using a wide variety of presets, or create your own. 65% off this week. I'm going to put a link to that in the description down below, as well as a link to Philip DeFranco's channel in the description down below. Go support this guy. He needs our help. Now that we've done that, let's talk about this mess. Oh, it's a mess. A retired Navy admiral, right, along with 8 other Navy officers have been charged with corruption. Now, I've got a weird connection to the Navy. None of my family that I know of was in the Navy. I have one grandfather who was in the Air Force. He's retired lieutenant colonel. But the Navy itself holds a special place in my heart because at one point in my life, I had zero prospects for work. And I was going to join and enlist as an ensign in the Navy. I was going to go to OCS and do, the whole 9 yards, and I was going to be a Navy officer. And at one point later in that year, I actually applied and auditioned to be a composer in the United States Navy Band, and went through several rounds of audition, made it to the very last round, and got cut. And I think it was because I took too modern of an approach to God Bless America, and they were like, the old people won't like this, no. Corruption's a serious charge, right? Because it means you're not doing your duty, and you're doing some bullshit. Well, let's dig into this. Apparently between 2006 2014, they took bribes in the form of Cuban cigars, prostitutes, and hotel rooms in exchange for classified Navy information. Meaning, they would take Navy intel and exchange it for blowjobs and cigars. Apparently the investigation's been going on for years, but they've just finally been charged, been incriminated. Okay, so here are the facts. We know that there was one specific person, and this guy's name was Leonard Glenn Francis of the Glenn Defense Marine of Asia. A little merchant marine activity going on here. And Leonard was apparently a big boy because they've titled this the Fat Leonard bribery case. Washington Post states that the scandal is the worst corruption case in Navy history and has rocked the service since Francis was arrested in September of 2013 in an international sting that lured him from Singapore to San Diego. So they got Fat Leonard from Singapore, this guy who was buying information from the Navy. They got him to San Diego. Francis pleaded guilty to bribery and conspiracy charges 2 years ago, and the court papers indicate that he has been cooperating with authorities. And this has been going on for years. The full list of bribes in the indictment allegedly given to the defendants over an 8-year period includes watches worth $25,000, $2,000 boxes of Cohiba cigars, $2,000 bottles of cognac, and $600 per night hotel rooms in Singapore. That's a nice hotel room. I got conflicting reports on the total amount of money that was defrauded from the US government here. I have 3 different sources, Fox News, NBC News, and the Washington Post. Both, and this is interesting, the Washington Post and Fox News actually corroborate each other. Those 2 stories hold together the best, which is not what I would expect. NBC News makes the claim that over the course of 8 years, they've defrauded the Navy millions of dollars. And they're making this $20 million claim. I can't find anything to back that up. Now, again, the main guy in this scandal is Rear Admiral Bruce Loveless, and here's a picture of Bruce. Senior superlative title of most likely to be mistaken for Igor, Dr. Frankenstein's assistant. Loveless was arrested at his home, according to the Washington Post, in California, and the Navy had announced in 2013 that he was under scrutiny by the Justice Department and suspended access to classified material at that time, and he was allowed to retire in 2016. So there's a 3-year gap, probably put on administrative leave. Overall, there's 30 people, 30 admirals, that's a big title in the Navy, are under investigation, although only a handful have been named publicly. And here's what I've got to say about this. This is bullshit of the highest order. This is from Attorney General Blanco said in his statement regarding the indictment. The defendants in this indictment were entrusted with the honor and responsibility of administering the operations of the United States Navy's 7th Fleet, which is tasked with protecting our nation by guarding an area of responsibility that spans from Russia to Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean. With this honor and awesome responsibility came a duty to make decisions based on the best interests of the Navy and 40,000 sailors and Marines under their command. This is not small potatoes. Put their lives at risk every day to keep us secure and free. Unfortunately, however, these defendants are alleged to have sold their honor and responsibility in exchange for personal enrichment, and that is exactly what I have to say about this. You took your honor, you took this thing that the public entrusted you with, command of 40,000 sailors and Marines, and you sold it for booze and hookers. When you think of the United States of America, at least in a classical sense, you don't think of corruption on a grand scale like this. When you think of corruption on a massive scale, you think of the mob, you think of Russia, you think of, you know what I'm saying? You don't think of the United States. And I don't want to think of my country as a corrupt nation but more and more so, I'm faced with the fact that it actually is. So not trying to Alex Jones here, not trying to get up the ethos, not trying to drum up your sensibilities here, but damn it. This sucks. I'm ashamed that people like this have power. The people who care are not in power, and the people who are in power do not care, is what I'm shown day in and day out by the news that I read. So yeah, this saddens me. So there you go. There's our douchebag of the day. Very positive news. For those of you who are familiar with the show, you know that in October I interviewed Mr. Bill. Let's try that again. For those of you who are familiar with the show, you'll know that back in October I interviewed Mr. Bill. This is a musician that I have a lot of respect for, writes some incredible music. And I've been following him for 2009, 8 years. I own almost his entire discography. So what I'm getting to here is I've been contacted by, I haven't signed an NDA yet, so I don't think I'm breaking any laws here. But I've been contacted by him, and he's passed along an offer to me. I haven't said yes yet. I have to talk to my wife. She's coming home for lunch, actually, so I'm going to talk to her in maybe an hour or so. Yeah, big news coming up here. So stay tuned. Citizen advised that I should write something that sounds like Thundercat, which is a musician that I've been turned on to recently. That's going to be our turn up of the day, Thundercat. If you've never heard his album, Drunk, you need to go listen to it. It's already on my list of possibly album of the year. for 2017. It's fantastic. So I'm going to put Citizen as our turnip of the day, again in the description down below. Everything I talked about today, links as always in the description down below. So we had some terrible news, we got some really great news for me. Being a musician, living a music life is just constant change, is what I'm learning. You know, like, how are we doing? How have we been since the job, right? Since I quit my job? Well, look at the lights, look at the studio. I've had way more time to get my shit together. And so I look professional now. Like, I've gone from being a professional finance software consultant to being a professional vlogger, a professional YouTuber, a professional musician. You know what I'm saying? Like, it looks like I know what I'm fucking doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the biggest achievement for me. Is I feel like another professional, but the brand of professional I've always wanted to be. I never wanted to be a professional financial consultant. I didn't want that. I never did. I did that for money. I've always wanted to be a professional musician, and damn it, here we are. I mean, look at that. It's something I've been building since 2007. That is 10 years. 10 years ago, I bought these speakers, and then I bought this interface. You know what I'm saying? And then things just started to, you know what I'm saying? It starts to build. If you take care of your equipment, it won't die. If you put in your brain power, you can build your own desk. Like, I built this desk, I built these treatments, I built this room. You know, we had this ceiling put in. I mean, I stripped everything out of this room when I bought this house and turned it into this. This hasn't come without hard work. This hasn't come without making the exception. I threw my weight into this, like my full energy, my full effort. And here we are. And my friend Josh told me yesterday, it's not something you just get to sleep on. You don't get to this point and then stop. You get to this point and you push harder, because now you have the appropriate tools. Now the lights look good. Now your face is lit properly. You gotta start shaving every day. You gotta wear sweaters that aren't dumpy bags of shit. You gotta wake up. You gotta put on the glasses. You turn on the camera and you say, "What's up, everybody?" And you can't fuck up. That's what it takes. And you barely scrape the surface. You're barely scraping the barrel. Getting a couple of cents off of every video, but it's worth it. And it's taken me a long time to realize the worth. I started out being so superficial, so arrogant, so entitled, and I'm now coming around to being a little bit more humble because I see the worth. The worth is the interaction I get from you, the commenter. The interaction I get from you, the viewer. That's where it is. When I log into my YouTube account at night and I see who's commented and y'all are talking to each other, that makes it worth it. When I log into my YouTube account at night and there's a question about something I said, and it's a good question, it's one of those mind-changing questions, and I have the opportunity to actually put some of my wisdom into the comments section, that's what makes it worth it. Thanks for being awesome. I'm gonna write some crazy jazz bass music. So if you'd like to hear that, click right here. If you want to see yesterday's episode where I tried to imitate Phil a little bit harder, click right here. If you'd like to subscribe to me, click right here. If you would like to support me on Patreon, please click right here. But as always, my name's GARDNSOUND. Fresh beats every day. I'll see you tomorrow.